They thought prom night would be her breaking point, but what they didn't know was that years of pain had built something unstoppable inside her. Tonight, the girl they mocked, cornered, and tried to destroy would become the nightmare they never saw coming. This is her story. A prom night had always been sold as a dream, a sparkling evening where laughter echoed through hallways, where girls twirled in gowns, and where memories were etched forever. But for Amara Johnson, that dream was tainted long before the first song played. She stood at the edge of the gym, her hands brushing nervously against the satin fabric of her deep blue dress. The dress wasn't expensive like the others, but her mother had worked double shifts just to afford it. For Amara, wearing it wasn't about glamour. It was about proving she belonged, that she had a place in this world despite the whispers, the smirks, the eyes that always seemed to cut her down. Her high school years had been a battlefield. Being the only black girl in a predominantly white school meant she was always marked. Sometimes invisible, sometimes too visible. If she spoke up in class, they rolled their eyes. If she stayed quiet, they called her mute. If she wore braids, they mocked her. If she straightened her hair, they said she was trying too hard. Every step she took felt like a trap. But there was something nobody knew. While the world mocked her, Amara's father, a former Golden Gloves boxer who had passed away when she was 12, had left her a gift. Before his death, he had taught her the discipline of boxing. Every night after school, she would train alone in her garage, fists pounding the bag until her knuckles bruised. That pain became her therapy, her secret strength. Nobody at school suspected the quiet, soft-spoken girl in the back row had the power of a fighter inside her. Tonight, however, all of that was about to be tested. As the DJ turned up the music, Amara felt the sting of laughter cutting through the air. A group of girls in glittering gowns, led by Jessica, the school's queen bee, pointed toward her and whispered. Soon the whispers turned to cruel chuckles, and then to loud, mocking words that even the teachers ignored. Look at her dress. Did she buy it from the thrift store? Does she even have a date? Or did she come here just to cry? Why don't you just go home, Amara? You don't belong here. Amara's heart pounded, but she swallowed her pain. She tried to walk away, but Jessica and her group weren't finished. They followed her through the crowd, throwing insults, bumping into her, and laughing like it was all part of some cruel comedy act. When Amara finally escaped into the hallway for air, her chest tight, Jessica's group cornered her near the gym doors. The flashing lights behind them turned their faces into shadows, but their sneers were clear. Tonight's supposed to be magical? Jessica smirked. So why don't you do us a favor and disappear? You're ruining the vibe. The hallway felt like it was closing in, and the pit in Amara's stomach grew heavier. Her fists clenched at her sides, but she told herself, not here, not tonight. She didn't want to give them more reason to hate her. But then Jessica reached forward and shoved her shoulder, hard. The impact wasn't just physical. It unlocked years of buried humiliation, pain, and anger. For the first time in her life, Amara didn't step back. She looked Jessica dead in the eyes, her jaw tightening. The bullies thought they had trapped their victim. They didn't realize they had awakened a fighter. Jessica's laughter echoed off the lockers. What? You're gonna cry? That's what you do best. But Amara didn't cry. She took a slow breath, her father's voice ringing in her memory. Control your heart. Control your fists. Only strike when you must. Jessica shoved her again, harder this time, and the crowd of students who had followed gasped. They wanted drama, a show, something to gossip about. What they were about to witness, however, would stay with them forever. In one swift move, Jessica tried to push her into the wall, but Amara stepped aside with the grace of a trained boxer. Her footwork was precise, her stance solid. The bullies didn't notice it at first. They thought it was luck. But when Jessica lunged again, Amara slipped her attack and raised her fists instinctively. The hallway erupted in gasps. Wait, is she? No way. The third shove never landed. Amara's fist connected with Jessica's open hand, deflecting it, and in a lightning-fast counter, she delivered a controlled hook that stopped inches from Jessica's face. The impact wasn't physical. It was psychological. The message was clear. I am not your victim anymore. Jessica froze, her smirk vanishing. Her friends stepped back unsure. But Amara had already locked into the rhythm her father had drilled into her. Jab, pivot, breathe. Years of silence and humiliation were now pulsing through every vein. no longer as weakness, but as power. Jessica, red with anger, lunged again, and this time Amara didn't hold back. Her fist shot forward, clean and sharp, striking Jessica's shoulder and spinning her backward. She hit the lockers with a thud. The hallway fell silent. Her friends tried to intervene, but Amara was faster. She weaved between their clumsy grabs, her movements sharp and ruthless. A jab to one girl's arm, a body shot to another. Controlled strikes, not enough to destroy, but enough to teach them fear. Within seconds, the girls who had mocked her, shoved her, and belittled her were cowering, clutching their bruised arms, faces pale. For the first time in years they weren't laughing, they were cornered. And Amara stood tall, her fists steady, her voice unwavering. "You don't get to decide where I belong. Not anymore." The crowd that had gathered erupted in whispers. Some looked at her with awe, others with guilt for all the times they had stayed silent. But no one could deny what they had just seen. The quiet girl was no longer quiet. She was a storm. Jessica, humiliated and trembling, tried to stand, but Amara stepped closer, lowering her fists. She didn't need to strike again. Her silence, her strength, spoke louder than any punch. As Amara walked back into the gym, the music still playing, students parted like the Red Sea. Heads turned. Whispers followed, but this time there was no mockery. There was respect. That night, Amara didn't need a crown, a slow dance, or the spotlight to make prom unforgettable. She had claimed something far greater, her dignity, her power, her voice. And from that moment forward, everyone knew the girl they had cornered was untouchable. Bullies feed on silence, but silence ends the moment you decide to fight back with your strength, your voice, or your courage. Amara's story is not just hers, it belongs to anyone who's ever been told they don't belong. Never forget, your worth isn't theirs to decide.